The day before my vacation, my mother suddenly called and said, "Put a hidden camera in the living room and leave the apartment." I was taken aback. "Why?" I asked. She only replied, "I'll explain everything later. Just do it." Although I hesitated, I still hid a tiny camera in a flower pot with a good view of the room. When I was already on vacation, I decided out of curiosity to check the recording. What I saw on the screen made me freeze. I always thought my life was pretty ordinary: work, home, my husband, meeting friends on weekends, nothing special. Sometimes, when I had a free minute, I'd scroll through social media feeds, silently comparing my quiet routine with other people's colorful lives. Then I'd remind myself that behind beautiful pictures often lies a very different reality. My name is Isabella. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 7 years, I've been working at a marketing agency. I can't say I'm madly in love with my job, but it provides a steady income and a certain degree of freedom. And I have a husband, Mauricio. We've been together for 6 years, 5 of them married. We don't have children yet, although our relatives regularly ask when we're finally going to make them grandparents and uncles or aunts. Our apartment is in a residential neighborhood, not the most prestigious, but not on the outskirts either. It has 2 rooms, a small kitchen, and a combined bathroom. We bought it 3 years ago, taking out a 20-year mortgage. A big part of our income goes to the bank every month, but at least it's ours. I've always said I'd rather pay off a mortgage than rent someone else's place forever and invest in someone else's walls. My relationship with my mother is complicated. No, we don't fight or argue openly. There's just always been some invisible wall between us. She's old-fashioned, a bit controlling, always sure she knows what's right. As a child, I often resented her strictness, but when I grew older, I realized all her demands and restrictions came from the best intentions. Mom lives alone in a small one-room apartment on the other side of the city. She and my father divorced when I was 14. I can't say it was a huge tragedy. Dad often went on business trips, and we were never particularly close. After the divorce, he moved to another city, remarried, and had other children. We talk on holidays, sometimes meet when he's in town on business, but there's no real warmth between us. Mom never remarried after the divorce. She devoted herself to her work. She's a math teacher at a secondary school, and to raising me, her only daughter. She's 58 now, retired, but still works. She says she'd wither away without a job, and besides, her pension is small, extra money never hurts. Mom and I see each other about once every 2 weeks. I visit her, sometimes with Mauricio, sometimes alone. We drink coffee, talk about the news, complain about life, politics, and prices, the usual mother-daughter conversations. No deep confessions, no emotional talks. Sometimes I feel like we're both playing roles. She's the caring mother, I'm the dutiful daughter, and we both know the rules of this game but keep playing anyway. Mom never really approved of Mauricio. She wasn't openly against our marriage, but I always sensed her unspoken disapproval. We actually married quite quickly. We'd only been dating for a year. Mauricio insisted, and honestly, I didn't see any reason to wait. I thought I knew him well enough. Looking back now, I realize maybe we should have gotten to know each other a little better before taking such a big step. Mauricio works for a construction company as an engineer. His schedule is irregular, lots of site visits. Sometimes he comes home late, sometimes he stays overnight at a site if it's far away. I got used to his absences and didn't think much of them. Our marriage isn't perfect, but I wouldn't call it unhappy either. We have our arguments like any couple, but nothing serious, or so I thought, until that phone call from my mother. That day started like any other. I was getting ready for work while Mauricio was still asleep. He'd come home late, around midnight, from another job site. I quietly got dressed, drank my coffee, and left the apartment. It was Monday, and a busy workweek lay ahead. On Saturday, Mauricio and I were supposed to leave for vacation, Cancun, a 5-star hotel, all-inclusive. Our first vacation together in 2 years. Work was hectic, end of the quarter, multiple projects closing at once, reports, client meetings. I got home around 8 in the evening, tired but content. Tomorrow was my last workday before the vacation. I just needed to wrap things up, hand over the projects to my colleagues, and then I could finally relax for 2 weeks. Mauricio wasn't home, which didn't surprise me. He told me he'd be late. I took a shower, reheated dinner, and settled in front of the TV with my plate. Then the phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the screen. She usually doesn't call me on weekday evenings. She knows I'm busy, and a pang of worry hit me. Had something happened? I picked up. "Hi, Mom. Is something wrong?" "Hello. Isabella. No, nothing serious. I just need you to do something. Her voice sounded strange, tense, anxious. What is it? I want you to put a camera in your living room, a hidden one, and leave the apartment for a few hours. I didn't even understand what she meant at first. A camera? In the living room? Why? I'll explain later. Just do it, please. Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on? Isabella, I can't explain everything right now. Please trust me, I have my reasons. Do you have a camera like that? I paused to think. Actually, yes, I did have a small camera we bought last year when we went away for a week and wanted to keep an eye on our neighbor's cat we were looking after. It was tiny, with remote access through a phone app. Yes, I do, but Mom, set it up so you can see the whole living room, especially the front door, and then go somewhere. To a friend's place, a cafe, anywhere. Just don't stay at home. But what about Mauricio? He'll be home late. Exactly. Just do as I ask. I'll explain later. There was something in her voice, a mix of urgency and worry, that made me agree despite how absurd it all sounded. Okay, Mom, I'll do it. But you'll have to explain everything to me. I will, Isabella. As soon as I can. Call me when you leave the apartment. She hung up, and I just sat there with my phone in my hand, trying to understand what was going on. Why did Mom want me to install a camera in my apartment? What did she want to see? And why couldn't she just tell me? I took the camera out of the drawer where I kept random gadgets I rarely used, checked the battery and the settings. Everything worked, the camera, the app, the connection. Now I just had to decide where to place it. In the living room, we had a big potted ficus. If I hid the camera among the leaves, it would be practically invisible and have a perfect view, the whole room, the front door, part of the hallway. I carefully attached the camera to the trunk between the thick green leaves and checked the feed on my phone. Perfect. But what now? Where should I go? It was almost 9 in the evening, not exactly the best time for visiting anyone. I decided to call my best friend, Carolina. Hey, Carolina. Listen, I have a weird favor to ask. Can I come over for a couple of hours? Hi, Isabella. Of course. What's going on? I don't really know. My mom asked me to set up a camera in my apartment and leave. She says she'll explain later. Wow. That's interesting. Sure, come over. I'm home anyway, not going anywhere. Thanks, I'll be there in half an hour. I packed a small bag, checked the camera feed one last time, and left the apartment. On the way, I called Mom, as she'd asked. Mom, I did everything, the camera's set up, and I'm heading to Carolina's. Good, Isabella. Thank you. I'll call you later. Mom, seriously, what's going on? Not over the phone, Isabella. I'll explain later. Stay at Carolina's, don't go back home until morning. Until morning? Please, Isabella. It's important. She hung up again, leaving me completely confused. Not go home until morning? What was this all about? Still, something in her tone made me obey. I texted Mauricio, telling him I'd be spending the night at Carolina's, said we'd gotten carried away chatting and opened some wine, so it was easier to stay over. He replied with a short okay, which didn't surprise me. He never minded when I stayed with my friends. Carolina lived in the next neighborhood, about a 20-minute drive away. The whole way there, I kept turning Mom's strange request over in my head. What was she hoping to see on that camera? Why couldn't she tell me directly? And why did I have to stay away all night? Carolina greeted me with a glass of wine and a curious look. Well, tell me, what's with the spy games? I told her everything, the strange phone call from Mom, the camera setup, and my sudden departure from home. And you have no idea why? Not the slightest. She said she'd explain later, but she sounded really serious. Maybe she suspects something about Mauricio? I looked at Carolina, surprised. What do you mean? Well, maybe she thinks he's cheating on you, or something like that. I laughed. Mauricio? He works like crazy. When would he even have the time? Besides, he's not that kind of person. Carolina shrugged. I just guessed. Otherwise, why would she ask you to set up a camera and leave? I thought about it. She had a point. Why indeed? Could Mom really suspect something? But why not tell me directly? I don't know, Carolina. It's all very strange. What if we check? You can access the camera through the app, right? I nodded. Yes, but I'm not sure we should. Mom asked me just to leave, not to spy. Oh, come on. It's your apartment, your camera. You have every right to know what's going on there. I hesitated. On one hand, Carolina was right. It was my apartment, and I did have the right to see what was happening. On the other hand, Mom clearly didn't want me to watch the footage right now. Maybe she had her reasons. Let's not do it yet, I decided. We'll wait for Mom to call. Maybe she'll explain everything. Carolina sighed in disappointment but didn't argue. We settled in the living room, drinking wine and chatting about everything, the upcoming vacation, work, mutual friends. I tried not to think about the weird camera situation, but my mind kept circling back to it. Around 11, Mauricio texted, "I'm home. Where are you?" I replied as planned, at Carolina's. We got caught up talking, had some wine. I'll stay here for the night. See you tomorrow. He sent back a simple smiley face and didn't write again, nothing unusual. He was never very talkative over text. At midnight, Mom called. "Isabella, are you at Carolina's?" "Yes, Mom, just like you asked." "Good. Stay there until morning. Don't look at the camera footage now, we'll talk tomorrow." "Mom, what's going on? Why can't you just explain?" "Not over the phone, Isabella. And not now. Just trust me, it's important. Stay at Carolina's, don't go home until morning, and don't watch the recording." "Okay, Mom, but will you explain everything tomorrow?" "Yes, Isabella, I promise. Good night." Mom hung up, and I turned to Carolina, who had been watching me curiously. She said not to look at the recording and to stay here until morning. Now I'm really dying to know what's going on. Carolina scooted closer. "Maybe we should just take a peek?" I hesitated again. Mom had been very clear, don't watch the recording. But why? What could possibly be on it that I wasn't supposed to see? Or maybe I was supposed to see it, just not yet. Why couldn't she just explain? "No, Carolina. If Mom says not to watch it, she must have her reasons. We'll wait until tomorrow." Carolina sighed again but didn't argue. We watched some movie, chatted a bit more, and around 2 in the morning, went to bed. Carolina gave me her bed and took the couch in the living room. I couldn't sleep for a long time, turning everything over in my head. What was happening in my apartment right now? What did Mom know that I didn't, and why couldn't she just tell me? I woke up early, around 6. Carolina was still asleep. I got up quietly, took my phone, and went to the kitchen. Coffee maker, arepas, scrambled eggs, the usual morning routine. And all the while, my thoughts kept circling around Mom's strange call. I took out my phone and opened the camera app. Mom had told me not to watch the recording yesterday, but it was morning now, right? Technically, I wasn't breaking her request. Besides, I wouldn't get any answers until I talked to her in person, and for that, I'd need to go home anyway. The app loaded, showing the live feed from the camera. The living room was empty, morning light filtering through the curtains. Everything looked normal. I switched to the recordings from last night. There I was, setting up the camera, checking the angle. Then I left the apartment. Hours of an empty living room followed. I fast-forwarded to the moment Mauricio came home. He walked in, turned on the light, took off his jacket. Everything seemed ordinary. He went into the living room, sat on the couch, turned on the TV, checked his phone. He was probably reading my message saying I'd stay at Carolina's. He nodded, put down the phone, watched TV for about 20 minutes, then went to the kitchen. He came back with a can of beer and sat down again. Nothing unusual. I was starting to think the whole thing was just some misunderstanding, that Mom was mistaken or overreacting. But then the doorbell rang. Mauricio stood up and went to answer it. A woman entered, young, slim, with long blonde hair. She smiled, hugged Mauricio, and kissed him on the lips. Not a fleeting friendly peck, but a long, passionate kiss. She stepped inside as if she belonged there, took off her coat, and hung it in the hallway. Underneath, she wore a short, tight-fitting dress. She walked into the living room and sat on the couch. Mauricio brought her a glass of wine. They talked, laughed, then she stood up, came closer, kissed him again. They embraced, and I stopped the recording. My hands were shaking, and my heart was pounding like crazy. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. Mauricio, my husband, had brought another woman into our apartment, and judging by their behavior, this wasn't the first time. Now I understood why Mom hadn't wanted me to watch the recording last night, why she told me to stay at Carolina's until morning. She knew, somehow she knew, that Mauricio was cheating on me, and she wanted me to have proof. But how could she have known? And why hadn't she told me directly? And what was I supposed to do with this knowledge now? I sat in Carolina's kitchen, clutching my phone, not sure whether to cry or scream. 6 years of marriage, shared plans, dreams, hopes. And all this time, he might have been seeing other women, bringing them into our home while I was away. "Isabella, you're up already?" Carolina came into the kitchen, yawning and rubbing her eyes. What's wrong? You look awful. Silently, I handed her my phone with the camera app still open. Carolina looked at the screen, watched the recording, then looked back at me. What a bastard, she said finally. Sorry, but there's no better word for it. I nodded. At that moment, I completely agreed with her. What are you going to do? Good question. What was I going to do? Confront him? Divorce him? Pretend I didn't know and find out how long this had been going on? I don't know, Carolina. I need to talk to my mom, to understand how she knew, and then I'll decide what to do next. I called my mother. Mom, I saw the recording. I need to talk to you. I knew you'd watch it, despite what I said, Mom replied, her voice calm but tired. Come over, we'll talk. I'll be there in an hour. I quickly got dressed, thanked Carolina for the night and for being there, and left her apartment. On the way to Mom's, my thoughts were spinning chaotically. Who was that woman? How long had their affair been going on? How had Mom found out? And what was I supposed to do now? Mom met me at the door of her apartment. She looked exhausted, as if she hadn't slept all night. Come in, Isabella. Want some coffee? I nodded and stepped inside her small kitchen. Mom's apartment had always felt cozy to me, despite its modest size, bookshelves along the walls, old but solid furniture, framed photos, me as a child, Mom and Dad in their youth, my grandparents. Mom started the coffee maker, took out cups and some cookies. It was our usual ritual every time I visited. But today, everything felt different. How did you know, Mom? She sighed and sat down across from me. I saw them together. By accident. 3 weeks ago. What? Where? In a cafe, near my school. I stayed late after classes to grade tests. It was already around 8 in the evening. I decided to grab some dinner at the cafe next door, and I saw them there. They were sitting at a table by the window, holding hands, kissing. I recognized Mauricio right away, even though I only saw him from the side. A lump rose in my throat. 3 weeks ago. And all this time, Mom had known and said nothing. Why didn't you tell me right away? I wasn't sure, she said quietly. It could have been a business meeting, or maybe they were just friends. I didn't want to cause problems in your marriage without being certain. So that's why you came up with the whole camera idea? I kept an eye on them after that evening, Mom admitted. I saw them together several more times, in that same cafe, in the park, once at the mall. They were always close, holding hands, hugging, kissing. It was definitely not just friendship. She paused for a moment, then continued. And I noticed a pattern. They usually met on days when you stayed late at work. Then, yesterday, I overheard her talking on the phone. She was standing next to me at the bus stop. At first, I didn't even realize it was the same girl I'd seen with Mauricio. But then I heard her say, yes, tonight. She's spending the night at her friend's place. We'll be alone. That's when I understood she was talking about you, about your apartment. I sat there, stunned. Mom had been following Mauricio and his lover for weeks and hadn't said a word to me. But why, Mom? Why didn't you just tell me? I was afraid you wouldn't believe me, that you'd think I just didn't like Mauricio and was trying to break you two up. This way, you have proof, something you saw with your own eyes. Her logic was hard to argue with. If she had simply told me she'd seen Mauricio with another woman, I might not have believed her, or I might have believed her but tried to find an excuse, some justification. But now I had undeniable proof. What should I do now? Mom took my hand. That's for you to decide, Isabella. I can only advise you, but the choice has to be yours. What would you have done in my place? Mom thought for a moment. When your father cheated on me, and yes, he did, that's why we divorced, I didn't make a scene or demand explanations. I just packed my things, took you, and left. Later, when the emotions had cooled, we talked calmly and finalized the divorce. But at first, I just needed to leave, to avoid doing something I'd regret. I froze. I had never known that my father had cheated on my mother. I'd always thought they divorced because of incompatibility or something like that. That revelation hit me like another blow. I didn't know. You were a child, Mom said softly. I didn't want to drag you into adult problems. But now, I think it's something you should know. I turned her words over in my mind. Leave without drama, maybe that really was the best option. But where would I go? And what about the apartment, the mortgage? Mom, I can't just leave. The apartment's mortgaged, half of the payments are mine. You can stay with me until you decide what to do next. As for the apartment, you could sell it, split the money, pay off the loan, or keep it and buy out Mauricio's share. There are options. But first, you have to decide whether you even want to stay married to him. A good question. Did I want to stay in a marriage with a man who cheated on me, who brought his lover into our home, who lied to me, maybe for years? I don't know, Mom. I need time to think. Of course, Isabella. Take as much time as you need. But remember, your vacation starts Saturday. You'll have to decide before then, or cancel the trip. Damn, the vacation. I'd completely forgotten. In 4 days we were supposed to fly to Cancun, everything paid for, tickets bought, hotel booked. What was I supposed to do about that? I don't want to go with him, Mom. Not now. Then maybe cancel it? Or you could go alone, or with a friend. I thought about it. Going alone, or with Carolina, that was an interesting idea. After all, I'd earned that vacation. I'd worked myself to exhaustion all year. Why should I give it up just because Mauricio turned out to be a cheating bastard, as Carolina so accurately put it? You know what? That's actually a good idea. Maybe I'll ask Carolina if she can take some time off and go with me. That's the spirit. And you can deal with Mauricio after the vacation, with a clear head. I nodded. A plan was beginning to form. Today I'd go home, pack my things, and move in with Mom. I'd call Carolina and ask about the trip. If she could come with me, great. If not, maybe I'd go alone. And after the vacation, I'd deal with Mauricio, the apartment, and the rest of my life. Thank you, Mom, for telling me, for helping me see the truth. Mom hugged me. I just want you to be happy, Isabella. And believe me, you won't find happiness with someone who betrays you. I hugged her back, tears running down my cheeks. It hurt, bitterly, deeply, but at the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. Now I knew the truth. Now I could make choices based on facts, not illusions. After talking with Mom, I drove home. Mauricio was supposed to be at work, and I hoped I could pack and leave before he returned. Not that I was afraid of confrontation, I just wasn't ready for it. Not yet. The apartment greeted me with its usual silence. I went to the bedroom, pulled out a suitcase, and started packing. The essentials, clothes, cosmetics, documents, laptop, charger. The rest could wait. As I packed, my thoughts kept circling back to the recording. Who was that woman? How long had they been together? Did she know Mauricio was married? Of course she did. She'd been in our apartment, seen the photos, our things. Unless Mauricio had lied to her, said we'd split up or something like that. I went into the bathroom to gather my toiletries, and froze. On the shelf by the sink lay a pink toothbrush. Not mine. Not Mauricio's. Mine was red, his blue. We'd used those colors since the very beginning. This woman hadn't just visited our apartment, she had her own things here. Her own toothbrush. What else? I started looking around the bathroom more closely. A pink bath sponge on the hook, definitely not mine. Some jars of creams and lotions I'd never seen before. Feminine pads in the drawer under the sink, a brand I didn't use. This woman felt completely at home here. She left her things, knowing she could come back. It wasn't some casual fling, not a one-time betrayal. It was a relationship, long-term, serious. I felt something twist painfully inside me, a sharp, suffocating mix of hurt and humiliation. All these years, I'd believed Mauricio and I were happy, that we loved each other, that we were building a future together. And he'd been bringing another woman into our home, maybe more than one, more than once. Unable to hold it in, I sat down on the edge of the bathtub and burst into tears. They streamed down my face, and I didn't even try to stop them. Let them come. I needed to cry it out, the pain, the shame, the anger. I don't know how long I sat there, maybe a few minutes, maybe an hour. But eventually the tears ran out, and in their place came a cold, steady fury. No, I wouldn't make a scene. I wouldn't scream or smash things. But I wasn't going to let him get away with it easily either. I grabbed my phone and called Carolina. Carolina, hi. Listen, can you take a few days off? Come with me to Cancun? To Cancun? What about Mauricio? Mauricio isn't going anywhere, at least not with me. Wow, so you already talked to him? Not yet, but I'm not going with him, and I'm not giving up my vacation either. So? Damn, Isabella, I'd love to, but our project is on fire. They won't let me take time off. I see. Okay, then I'll go alone. Are you sure? Maybe it's better to cancel the trip? No, Carolina. I earned that vacation. I'm not letting Mauricio ruin it for me. Are you home right now? What if he comes back? I'm packing. I'll move in with Mom for now. I'll deal with Mauricio later, after the trip. Want me to come help you pack? No, it's okay. I'll manage. Just check if it's possible to change the name on the ticket or transfer the reservation from Mauricio to someone else. Got it. I'll call the agency and find out. I hung up and went back to packing. This time I worked more methodically, calmly, gathering what I'd need for the vacation and everything that mattered to me personally. The rest could wait. When I was almost done, I came across a framed photo of Mauricio and me at the beach a year ago. We looked happy, smiling, sunlit. I stared at it for a long time, then firmly placed it in a drawer. No more illusions. Once I'd finished packing, I looked around the apartment one last time. This had been my home. Or at least, I thought it was. Not anymore. Not in the same way. I picked up my suitcase, my bag with the laptop and documents, and headed for the door. Then I stopped, turned back, and removed the camera from the flower pot. The last thing I needed was for Mauricio to find it and realize I knew everything. Let him think I'm still in the dark. For now. As I stepped out of the apartment, I called Mom. Mom, I'm coming to you. Can I stay a few days until my trip? Of course, Isabella. I'll get the couch ready for you. Thanks, Mom. On the way to her place, Carolina called me back. Isabella, I checked about the tickets. You can change the name, but it costs about $150 per ticket. No problem. See if anyone else wants to come with me. Maybe Fernanda or Valentina. And if no one can, then I'll go alone. Okay, I'll call the girls and find out. How are you holding up? I'm okay. I packed. I'm on my way to Mom's. Haven't talked to Mauricio yet. Has he called you? No. He probably thinks I'm at work. You're not going in today? God, I totally forgot about work. No, I'll call in sick or take a personal day. Tomorrow's my last day before vacation anyway. It's fine. All right, I'll let you know as soon as I hear from the girls. I arrived at Mom's around noon. She met me with lunch and news. Your boss, Lucia, called, she said. She was looking for you. I told her you weren't feeling well and wouldn't be coming in today. Thanks, Mom. But how did she get your number? I don't know, Mom shrugged. Maybe from your personnel file? I nodded. That made sense. Our HR records at work included emergency contact numbers, even of close relatives. I'll call her after lunch and explain. We sat down to eat. Mom's tamales, rice with beans, fresh juice, just like in my childhood. Strangely, that simple home-cooked meal brought me a kind of unexpected comfort, as if I'd gone back to a time when every problem could be solved just by telling Mom about it. After lunch, I called the office and explained, or rather, the part that concerned work. I said I wasn't feeling well, that I'd take the day off today and a sick day tomorrow, and then my vacation would start. Lucia was understanding, said it was fine, that I'd worked hard lately and had earned some rest. Then Carolina called. Isabella, good news. Valentina can go with you. She was supposed to have her vacation next week, but she's willing to move it up. That's great. Tell her to get a passport if she doesn't have one. She already has one. She went to Cartagena last year. I'll give her your number. She'll call you to sort out the details. Thanks, Carolina. You're a real friend. Oh, come on, you do the same for me. Valentina called half an hour later. We agreed to meet the next day to go over the trip details and transfer the ticket to her name. Then I called the travel agency to ask about the procedure for changing the passenger's name, the cost, and what documents were needed. Little by little, things were falling into place. I had a plan. I'd spend 2 weeks in Cancun with Valentina, rest, clear my head, think about the future. Then I'd come back and decide what to do about Mauricio, the apartment, and our marriage. That evening Mauricio called. Hey, where are you? I'm home, and you're not here. I took a deep breath, trying to sound calm. Hi, I'm at Mom's. Not feeling well, decided to stay here. What's wrong? A cold? Yeah, something like that. My throat hurts, got a bit of a fever. I don't want to get you sick before the trip. Got it. Feel better soon. I'll be home late tomorrow. Problems at the site. Of course, problems at the site. I wondered if those problems had long blonde hair and a short dress. Okay, see you later, then? Yeah, sure. Take care. I hung up, feeling an odd emptiness inside. No anger, no sadness, no pain, just nothing. As if I'd been talking to a stranger, not to the man I'd lived with for 5 years. Was that Mauricio? Mom asked as she came into the room. I nodded. He wanted to know where I was. I told him I was here, that I was sick. And what did he say? Nothing much. Just that he'd be working late tomorrow. Problems at the site. Mom snorted. Of course. Problems. You know, Mom, I said quietly, I don't even care anymore. Honestly, I thought it would hurt more, but it's like I'm watching all this from the outside, like it's not even happening to me. That's a defense mechanism, Isabella. Your mind is protecting you from the pain, but it'll come later, and when it does, you'll have to face it. I knew she was right. That strange numbness wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, the pain would hit, the betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak. But maybe by then, I'd be stronger. Maybe the trip, the change of scenery, the new experiences would help me cope better. That evening, Mom and I sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee and talking about work, future plans, the upcoming vacation, carefully avoiding the topic of Mauricio and his affair. It felt like an unspoken agreement. We'd talk about that later, when emotions settled. You know, Isabella, Mom said after a pause, maybe it's for the best that everything came out now, not later. What do you mean? Well, you and Mauricio were planning to have children, weren't you? Imagine how much harder it would have been if you already had them. I nodded. It was true, Mauricio and I had talked about having kids, planning to start trying next year, once the mortgage payments got a little easier. Thank God we never got that far. Yes, you're right, Mom. It really is for the best. At least now I'm free, I can walk away without looking back. Exactly. Life's giving you a chance to start over, without betrayal, without lies, without humiliation. I thought about it. Start over. Maybe that's how I should see all this, not as an ending, but as a beginning. A new chapter, new opportunities, new horizons. You know, Mom, I'm 32. Honestly, I'm a little scared to start from scratch. New relationships, a new home, maybe even a new job. 32 isn't old, Isabella. You have your whole life ahead of you, and no one says you have to change everything at once. Start small, maybe new relationships, a new place to live. If you like your job, you can keep it. I nodded. She was right. There was no need to panic, no need to solve everything overnight. Step by step, I would build a new life without Mauricio. That evening, lying on the couch in Mom's living room, I checked my phone. A few messages from Carolina, words of support, offers to help. A message from Valentina confirming that she could meet me tomorrow at the travel agency to reissue the ticket. And one message from Mauricio. Hope you're feeling better. Call me if you need anything. Love you. Love you. Those words that once brought warmth and joy now felt empty, fake. How could he talk about love while cheating on me, bringing another woman into our home, letting her leave her things in our bathroom? I didn't reply. There was no point in playing along, no reason to keep up the act. Soon, very soon, Mauricio would find out that I knew everything. But not yet. First, the vacation. The next morning, I met Valentina at the travel agency. We reissued the ticket, paid the fees, and went over the trip details. Valentina was thrilled by the sudden chance to go to Cancun, especially to a 5-star all-inclusive resort. She didn't ask why Mauricio wasn't coming with me, and I was grateful for that. Afterward, we stopped by a cafe for coffee and dessert. Listen, Isabella, Valentina said hesitantly, I don't want to pry, but are you okay? You seem different. I sighed. I must have looked worse than I thought. Valentina was a friend of Carolina's. We'd met a few times at gatherings but weren't especially close. Not entirely okay, Valentina, I admitted. But I don't want to talk about it right now. Maybe in Cancun. Of course, Isabella. Sorry for asking. Just if you ever need help, I'm here. Thank you. Really, that means a lot. When I got back to Mom's, I saw several missed calls from Mauricio and a new message. I can't reach you. Everything okay? I decided to reply, no need to make him suspicious. Yes, everything's fine. I was at the doctor, then the pharmacy. Didn't hear the phone. His reply came almost instantly. How are you feeling? Will you be able to fly tomorrow? I think so. No fever anymore, just a sore throat. Good. I'll be working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Of course I won't. I wasn't even in our apartment, I was at Mom's. And I knew exactly who he was working late with. But I only wrote back, okay, see you tomorrow. I spent the rest of the day getting ready for the trip, checking my luggage, organizing documents, buying small things I might need, sunscreen, sunglasses, a hat. Every so often, my thoughts drifted back to Mauricio, his betrayal, that woman. But I tried not to dwell on it. I'd have plenty of time to think about all that later. For now, I just needed to make it through the next couple of days. That evening, Mauricio called again. Hey, how are you feeling? Better. My throat's fine, no fever. I'll definitely be able to fly tomorrow. Great. Listen, I'll head straight to the airport after work. Let's meet there, okay? I have an important meeting I can't cancel. Of course, an important meeting. I wondered if he planned to spend the night with her before our trip, or just meet to say goodbye for 2 weeks. All right, what time will you be at the airport? I'll make it in time for check-in. About an hour and a half before the flight. Okay, see you there. I hung up, feeling anger slowly rise inside me. He didn't even bother to come up with a convincing lie. An important meeting the night before our vacation. Who would believe that? Was that Mauricio? Mom asked, stepping into the room. I nodded. He says he'll go straight to the airport from work tomorrow. Apparently, he has an important meeting. Mom shook her head. Shameless. He doesn't even bother to come up with something believable. You know, Mom, I'm not even surprised anymore. I guess he's so used to lying that he does it automatically, without even thinking. Maybe so. So, are you ready for tomorrow? For seeing him at the airport? I hesitated. Was I ready? Could I look him in the eye, knowing what he'd done, without giving myself away, without losing control, without telling him everything I thought of him? I don't know, Mom, but I don't really have a choice. I'm not going to cancel my vacation because of him, which means I'll have to see him at the airport. Not necessarily. You could show up right before check-in, or even after. Say you were running late. I considered the idea. She was right. I could minimize the time spent with Mauricio at the airport, arrive at the last moment, check in, and go straight to boarding. And on the plane? Well, we have to sit together. But it's only a 4-hour flight. I'll manage. Yes, I said finally. That's what I'll do. I'll get there just in time, so we barely cross paths. Good. And then what are you going to do in Cancun? Tell him you know everything, or wait until you get back? I sighed. He's not flying to Cancun, Mom. At least not with me. I changed the ticket. Valentina, Carolina's friend, is going instead. We're flying together. Mom raised her eyebrows in surprise. And Mauricio doesn't know? No. He'll find out tomorrow. At the airport. Oh, Isabella. He's going to be furious. Let him. What right does he have to be angry after everything he's done? None, of course. But aren't you worried he'll make a scene? At the airport, in front of people? I shrugged. If he does, it'll only prove I made the right choice not to go with him. But honestly, I don't think he will. He'll probably just pretend everything's fine, and later, when we're alone, he'll try to figure out what's going on. Maybe. In any case, be prepared for anything. And remember, you don't owe him anything. No explanations, no apologies. Nothing. I nodded. Mom was right. I didn't owe him a thing, not after what he'd done. In the morning, I woke up early, around 6. The flight was at 2 in the afternoon, and I needed to be at the airport 2 hours before, so I'd have to leave around 11. I had plenty of time to get ready, have breakfast, and double-check my documents and luggage. Mom got up early too and made breakfast. We sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee and chatting about random little things, carefully avoiding any mention of the upcoming encounter with Mauricio. I was grateful for that. I didn't want to think about him. I just wanted to enjoy this morning, the warmth, the smell of coffee, the comfort of Mom's presence. Around 10, Valentina called. Hi, Isabella. I'm heading to the airport now. See you there. Hi, Valentina. Yes, I'll be leaving soon too. Let's meet by the check-in counter, around 1 o'clock. Perfect. I can't wait. This is going to be the best vacation ever. I smiled. Valentina's enthusiasm was contagious. Maybe this vacation really would be good for me. Maybe it would help me heal from Mauricio's betrayal and figure out what to do next. At 11, the taxi I'd booked arrived. I hugged Mom goodbye. Thank you for everything, Mom, for your support, your understanding, your help. There's nothing to thank me for, Isabella. Just rest, relax, clear your mind. And when you get back, we'll figure out what to do next. I nodded, feeling tears well up. Strangely, at that moment, I felt grateful to her not only for her support now but also for all her strictness when I was younger, for every rule, every limit she'd set. I finally understood. It had all come from love, from wanting to protect me. I love you, Mom. And I love you, Isabella. I always will, no matter what happens. I got into the taxi and headed for the airport, feeling a strange mix of emotions, anxiety about seeing Mauricio, anticipation for the trip, sadness about leaving Mom, anger toward Mauricio and his betrayal, and fear of the uncertain future ahead. All those feelings swirled and blended inside me, creating a kind of emotional chaos. I decided I'd arrive at the airport about an hour before the flight, right near the end of check-in. That way, I'd minimize the time spent with Mauricio. Of course, I'd still have to explain things, tell him about Valentina, that he wasn't flying with me, but it would be a short conversation, in public, with no chance for him to make a scene. On the way to the airport, I got a message from Mauricio. "I'm already at the airport, waiting for you at the check-in counter." I didn't reply. There was no point. Soon, very soon, we'd see each other face to face, and then we'd talk. When the taxi pulled up to the airport, I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts and emotions. I can do this, I told myself. I can face him, say what needs to be said, and leave, no tears, no drama, no humiliation. I entered the terminal and found the right check-in counter. Mauricio was standing there with our suitcases, glancing nervously at his watch. Next to him was Valentina. They were talking. Obviously, she had already explained the situation. As I approached, I caught part of their conversation. "You have to understand, Mauricio," Valentina was saying, "this wasn't my idea. Isabella suggested it, and I agreed. If you're against it, I can just not go." "That's not the point," Mauricio said tensely. "I just don't understand why Isabella decided to do this. Why didn't she tell me earlier? What's going on, for God's sake?" I stepped closer, and Mauricio turned toward me. His face showed confusion, disbelief, and fear. Yes, definitely fear. The kind of fear you see in someone who knows he's about to be exposed. "Hi," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I see you two have met. Isabella, what's happening?" Mauricio took a step toward me. "Why didn't you tell me you weren't flying with me? What does this mean?" I looked him straight in the eyes. "I am flying, Mauricio, just not with you. I changed your ticket to Valentina's name." "But why? What happened? We planned this trip together." I took a deep breath. Here it was, the moment of truth. Should I tell him right now that I knew everything, make a scene in the airport? Or should I play along, pretend it was something else, let him keep pretending to be the devoted husband a little longer? "We need to talk, Mauricio. But not here, not now. I'm leaving for vacation, 2 weeks. When I come back, we'll talk. About everything." Mauricio looked at me with confusion and worry. "Isabella, I don't understand. Why are you doing this? If I've done something wrong, just tell me." I almost laughed. If he's done something wrong? Really? Cheating on his wife, bringing his mistress into our home, letting her leave her things in our bathroom, was that just something wrong? "Not now, Mauricio. I'm late for check-in. Valentina, are you ready?" Valentina, who had been standing quietly beside us this whole time, nodded. "Yes, Isabella. Let's go, check-in ends in 15 minutes. I picked up my suitcase, gave Mauricio a small nod, and walked toward the counter. Valentina followed me, glancing back at him apologetically. "Isabella," Mauricio called after me. "We need to talk. I don't understand what's happening." I didn't turn around. There was no point continuing that conversation. Everything that needed to be said would be said after the vacation. For now, I just wanted to get away, to leave all of this behind, if only for 2 weeks. Check-in went quickly. We dropped off our bags and got our boarding passes. Then we passed through passport control and entered the departure area. Only there, safely beyond the point of another encounter with Mauricio, did I feel the tension finally start to fade. "You okay?" Valentina asked as we sat down in a cafe, waiting for boarding. I gave her a faint smile. "Not really, but I will be when we get back. I'll sort everything out then. Right now, I just want to rest and forget about everything for a while." "Of course, Isabella. I understand. And I'm sorry. About your husband, about the trip, about everything. Don't apologize, Valentina. You have nothing to do with it. And besides, maybe it's even for the best. We'll have fun, relax, unwind, no men, no problems, no drama." Valentina smiled. "Yeah, sounds perfect. A girl's vacation, just the sea, the sun, cocktails, and no worries." I smiled back, feeling something inside me begin to stir, something like anticipation. Maybe this vacation really would be good for me. Maybe it would help me figure out what I wanted from life, without Mauricio. The boarding, the flight, the arrival at Cancun Airport, the transfer to the hotel, it all passed in a blur. I was there physically, answering questions, smiling, doing what needed to be done, but my thoughts were far away, with Mauricio, his betrayal, and the emptiness of our future together. The hotel was everything it promised to be. 5 stars, all-inclusive, a huge property with several pools, a private beach, restaurants, bars, entertainment, a paradise for vacationers. In other circumstances, I would have been thrilled. Now I just noted the details mechanically, feeling nothing. We were given a double room with an ocean view, a spacious suite with 2 beds, a jacuzzi, and a balcony with lounge chairs. Everything was beautiful, comfortable, and thoughtfully arranged. That first evening, Valentina and I explored the hotel grounds, had dinner at the main buffet restaurant with its endless variety of dishes, sipped cocktails at the pool bar, and took a short walk along the beach. I tried to sink into the rhythm of vacation life, to push away thoughts of home and enjoy the moment. It didn't work very well, but I kept trying. Before going to bed, I checked my phone. Several missed calls from Mauricio and about a dozen messages. Isabella, we need to talk. Why did you do this? What happened? If I did something wrong, just tell me. And the last one, sent about an hour earlier. I love you, Isabella. No matter what's happened or what you think, I love you. I turned off my phone. I didn't have the strength to read his messages, to reply, to think about Mauricio and his supposed love. I'd earned these 2 weeks of rest, without problems, without drama, without betrayal. And I intended to take them, no matter what. The next 2 days passed in typical vacation fashion: beach, pool, restaurants, bars, the evening shows organized by the hotel. I tried to immerse myself completely in the moment, to forget about home, about my problems, about Mauricio. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Valentina turned out to be the perfect travel companion, cheerful, energetic, but never intrusive. She didn't pry, didn't try to cheer me up by force. She was simply there, supportive when needed, and quiet when I wanted to be alone. On the 3rd evening, we were sitting in the beach bar, sipping cocktails and watching the sunset. The sea was calm, and the sky glowed with shades of pink, orange, and violet. It was the kind of evening made for romance, or confessions. You know, Valentina, I said, taking a sip of my drink, I guess I should explain about Mauricio, about why I didn't fly with him. Valentina shook her head. You don't owe me an explanation, Isabella. If you don't want to talk about it, don't. No, I want to. I need to talk it out. And you're the only neutral person I can talk to about this. My mom's too biased, Carolina's too emotional. But you'll just listen, without judgment, without advice. Valentina nodded. Of course, Isabella. I'm listening. So I told her everything, about my mom's strange phone call, about the hidden camera in the flower pot, about the recording I'd seen, about the lovers' things in our bathroom, about my decision to leave quietly without a fight, about moving in with my mom, about my uncertain plans for the future. Valentina listened attentively, without interrupting, just nodding occasionally to show she was following. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment, staring out at the sea. You're strong, Isabella, she said finally. In your place, most people would have made a scene, screamed, tried to get revenge. But you just walked away, with dignity. I shrugged. I don't know if that's strength. I just didn't see the point in a scene. What would it change? He already betrayed me, humiliated me, lied to me. No amount of shouting or crying will undo that. So what are you going to do after the vacation? I don't know. Probably file for divorce. We'll have to sell the apartment, pay off the mortgage, split what's left. Or maybe I can buy out Mauricio's share and keep it. I'll need to talk to a lawyer. And what if he asks for forgiveness? Says it was a mistake, that it'll never happen again? I thought for a moment. What if Mauricio really did beg for forgiveness, told me he loved me, said that woman meant nothing, that he wanted to save our marriage? Could I forgive him? Could I live with him again, knowing what he'd done, trust him again? I don't know, Valentina. Honestly, I don't. Right now, I don't think I could. But who knows how I'll feel in 2 weeks, how my thoughts, my emotions might change. In any case, you have time to think, Valentina said. 2 weeks away from home, from all the problems, from Mauricio. Use that time wisely. And remember, whatever you decide, it has to be your decision. Not your mother's, not your friends', not society's. Yours. I nodded. She was right. It was my decision, my life. And I had to choose what was best for me. Not for Mauricio, not for my mom, not for anyone else. For me. Thank you, Valentina, for understanding, for your support. And I'm sorry for dumping all my problems on you. You came here to relax, and instead you got stuck listening to my drama. Valentina smiled. Don't apologize. That's what friends are for, to be there when things get hard. But we weren't even close friends before this. Well, we are now. Nothing brings people closer than a shared vacation and someone else's family drama. I laughed, truly laughed, for the first time in days. Valentina was right. This trip, these conversations, were bringing us closer, turning us from casual acquaintances into real friends. The next few days went by more easily. I still thought about Mauricio, about his betrayal, about our uncertain future, but not as painfully as before. The distance, the new surroundings, they really were helping to heal the wound, to calm the ache. I turned on my phone and checked my messages. Mauricio was still writing and calling, but less often now. His last message read, "I understand you don't want to talk right now. I'll wait. When you're ready, we'll talk. I love you." He loves me. How can someone love and betray at the same time? How can you say I love you and bring another woman into the home you share with your wife? That's not love, it's something else. Habit, convenience, fear of being alone, but not love. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to talk, didn't know what to say, how to respond. I decided to leave it all until I got back. For now, I just wanted to rest, recover, and think about my future. Time on vacation passed quickly, the days blended together, filled with sunshine, the sea, and new experiences. Valentina and I sunbathed on the beach, swam in the ocean and the pools, went on excursions, danced at the hotel's disco, and met other travelers. There were a few attempts from men, both locals and tourists, to strike up conversations, to flirt, to invite us somewhere. But I wasn't ready for anything new, not even something fleeting. The wound was too fresh, the pain too sharp. I politely declined, preferring to spend my time with Valentina or alone. One evening, about 10 days into the trip, we sat in the hotel lobby bar, sipping wine and chatting. Valentina was telling me about her work. She was a designer at an advertising agency, about her plans for the future, her dream of starting her own studio. "And you, Isabella," she asked, "what do you want from life, besides sorting out the mess with Mauricio and the apartment?" I thought about it. It had been a long time since I'd asked myself that question. There had always been immediate concerns, problems to solve, work, daily routines, relationships. Dreams, desires, ambitions, they had all slipped quietly into the background, buried under the weight of everyday life. "You know," I said slowly, "I've always wanted to travel, to see different countries and cultures. Not just as a tourist, staying in fancy hotels like this, but really travel, live in local apartments, talk to people, learn the language, the culture, the food. And what's stopping you? Money, time, work, responsibilities, the mortgage. And if none of that existed, if you could choose freely, without limits?" I smiled. "Then I'd travel the world. Maybe become a travel blogger, write about my journeys, film videos, share impressions and tips." That sounds amazing. And you know what? It's totally possible. Maybe not right away or on a grand scale, but step by step, you could make it happen. You think so? I'm sure of it. Look at the world now. So many opportunities for remote work, for creating content, for turning hobbies into income. It takes time, effort, and some investment, sure. But it's real if you truly want it. I thought about that. She was right. There really were so many possibilities now, things that once seemed like distant dreams. Working remotely, traveling, creating content, earning from what you love, it wasn't fantasy anymore. It was a real way of life, available to anyone brave enough to try. "You know," I said quietly, "I never saw it that way. I always thought that kind of life was for the lucky ones, people with money, connections, special talents. No, Isabella. It's for anyone willing to work, learn, and take risks. Sure, not everyone becomes a millionaire or a celebrity, but plenty of people find their path, their niche, their audience, and live a life they actually enjoy. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should try, after I deal with everything waiting for me back home." "You definitely should. And you know what? I believe you'll make it. You've got what it takes to succeed: determination, intelligence, adaptability. Look at how you've handled everything with Mauricio. Most people would have fallen apart, sunk into depression, done something reckless. But you found the strength to move forward, to plan for the future." I was touched by her words. It was strange, but the support of someone I'd known for only 10 days meant so much to me at that moment. Maybe because Valentina was objective, she didn't have a history with me, wasn't tied to my past life, saw things clearly. "Thank you, Valentina. Really, thank you. You have no idea how important your support is to me right now." "Don't mention it, Isabella. That's what friends are for, to be there for each other, to believe in each other when we stop believing in ourselves." That conversation became a turning point in my vacation, and maybe in my life. I started to think not just about my current problems, what to do with Mauricio, the apartment, my job, but about bigger things. What do I actually want from life? What do I see my life looking like in a year, in 5 years, in 10? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to live? How do I want to spend my time? And the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. My life with Mauricio, the way it was before his betrayal, wasn't what I truly wanted. It had been a compromise, comfortable, familiar, but not fulfilling. Not real happiness. Maybe his betrayal wasn't an ending but a beginning, not a tragedy, but an opportunity. A chance to change my life, to start over, to build something new, something that actually reflected my real desires and needs. The thought felt strange, almost blasphemous. How can you see your husband's betrayal as an opportunity? How can you feel grateful for deceit, for humiliation, for pain? And yet, there was a certain truth in it. If Mauricio hadn't cheated, I would have kept living in the illusion of a happy marriage, kept compromising, kept pushing aside my dreams, postponing them for later. But now I had the chance to change everything, to start fresh, to choose a path that might actually lead to happiness. The last few days of the trip passed in a new state of mind. I still thought about Mauricio, about the affair, about the conversation and the decisions that awaited me. But now those thoughts didn't hurt as sharply as before. They were no longer wounds, just tasks to be handled, obstacles to be overcome on the way to a new life. I even began taking the first small steps toward my dream of traveling and blogging. I created an Instagram account and started posting photos from the trip with short captions, little notes about the places we visited, my impressions, the local food. Nothing serious, just practice, a small step towards something bigger. Valentina supported me in everything, helped with the photos, gave tips on post layouts, shared her knowledge of design and marketing. We even started talking about possible joint projects for the future, maybe a travel website, maybe a series of workshops on planning independent trips. For now, they were just ideas, dreams, plans. But they inspired me, motivated me, gave me hope for the future. And finally, the last day of the vacation arrived. Tomorrow morning we'd fly home, back to reality, to problems, to the decisions waiting for me. Valentina and I decided to spend our final day on the beach, soaking up the sun and the sea before returning to our everyday lives. So, are you ready to go back? Valentina asked as we lounged on the sunbeds, sipping cocktails. I thought for a moment. Not really, I admitted. But I know it's inevitable. You can't run from your problems forever. Sooner or later, you have to face them. And what are you going to do about Mauricio, about the apartment? I think the conversation with Mauricio is unavoidable. I have to tell him that I know, about the affair, about what I saw on the camera, about the things that woman left in our bathroom. And then I'll tell him what I've decided. And what have you decided? Divorce. Definitely. I can't live with someone I don't trust. And I don't want to. Life's too short to waste it on a relationship that only causes pain. And the apartment? I'll talk to a lawyer. Maybe we'll have to sell it and split the money. Or maybe I'll be able to buy out Mauricio's share and keep it. But either way, it's just property, not worth clinging to if it's stopping me from moving forward. Valentina nodded. That's a wise approach. And what comes next? After all that? I smiled. Next comes a new life. Maybe not right away, not all at once, but step by step. I know where I want to go, and I'll start moving in that direction. Traveling, blogging, new experiences, new people. A life that brings joy, not just obligations and routine. That sounds wonderful. And you know what? I believe you'll make it. You're strong, smart, determined. You'll handle everything and build the life you've been dreaming of. Thank you, Valentina, for your support, your understanding, for this vacation. It was exactly what I needed, time to rest, to think, to understand what I really want. It's nothing, Isabella. And remember, no matter what happens, I'm here for you. If you ever need help, advice, or just someone to talk to, I'm only a call away. I hugged Valentina, feeling a deep, genuine gratitude. Life is such a strange thing. 2 weeks ago, we were just acquaintances, thrown together on vacation by pure coincidence, or rather, by my husband's betrayal. And now we were real friends, supporting each other, understanding each other, ready to stand by one another in hard times. That evening, we packed our things, got ready for the early departure. Our last dinner at the hotel restaurant, our last cocktails on the beach, our last sunset over the sea. Everything felt a little sad, as it always does at the end of a good vacation. But at the same time, I felt an odd sense of anticipation, almost excitement. I was ready to go back, to face my problems, to deal with them, and to move on. toward a new life, new possibilities, new horizons. Before going to bed, I checked my phone. A new message from Mauricio. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow. We need to talk. I'll explain everything. Please give me a chance. I didn't reply. There was no point. Tomorrow we would see each other, and then I'd say everything that needed to be said, the truth, my thoughts, my decisions. In the morning, Valentina and I left for the airport, checked in, boarded the plane. Everything felt hazy, a blur of movement and anticipation. Soon, very soon, I'd be home. And then a new chapter of my life would begin. The flight was calm. I slept through most of it. The accumulated exhaustion of the past 2 weeks finally caught up with me. Valentina read a book, occasionally glancing at me with a gentle smile. She understood that I was preparing myself for a difficult conversation, for difficult decisions, and she gave me space, time to think, to gather my strength. When we landed, the weather was dreary, gray sky, cold wind, and rain, typical for home. After 2 weeks of Caribbean sun, it felt especially unpleasant, but I didn't let it affect my mood. Not even the rain could stop me now. We picked up our luggage, went through passport control, and stepped into the arrivals hall. And there, among the crowd of people waiting, I saw him, Mauricio. He was holding a bouquet of flowers, his face full of hope and worry. When he spotted me, he waved and took a hesitant step forward. I turned to Valentina. Well, there he is. Time for me to go. Valentina nodded. Good luck, Isabella. You've got this. And remember, whatever happens, I'm on your side. We hugged one last time and exchanged contacts, even though we already had each other's numbers. It was more of a ritual, a confirmation of our friendship. Then Valentina left, and I was alone with Mauricio, or as alone as one can be in a crowded airport. I walked toward him, feeling an unexpected calm. No panic, no fear, no doubt, just a firm, steady sense of purpose. I knew exactly what I had to do. Hi, Mauricio said, handing me the bouquet. How was your flight? Fine, I answered, taking the flowers more out of politeness than anything else. Thanks. We stood there in the middle of the airport, surrounded by noise and movement, not exactly the ideal setting for a serious conversation. We need to talk, Isabella, Mauricio said, looking me straight in the eyes. I don't understand what's going on, why you left, why you changed the tickets, why you've been ignoring my calls and messages. But I want to fix this. Whatever's happened, whatever you think, I want to make it right. I nodded. Yes, we need to talk. But not here. Let's go home. To our place or your mother's? To ours. It'll be easier there. Mauricio looked relieved. He must have thought that going back to the apartment meant reconciliation, that things would go back to normal, that I was coming home. Poor, naive Mauricio. If only he knew what was coming. We left the airport and got into a taxi. The ride was silent. Mauricio tried to start a conversation a few times, but I gave short, closed answers, making it clear I didn't want to discuss anything serious in front of the driver. Finally, we arrived home, our apartment. Only now, it didn't feel like ours anymore. It was just a space, a property to be divided, something I might soon leave behind in order to move forward. We walked in. I left my suitcase in the hallway and went straight to the living room, the very same living room where the ficus stood, where I'd hidden the camera 2 weeks ago, where I'd seen Mauricio with another woman. This was a symbolic place, where it all began, and where it would end. Mauricio followed me, sitting down on the couch, the same couch where he'd sat with her, where he'd held her, kissed her. I chose to remain standing. So, he began, maybe you can explain what's going on. Why you left the day before our trip, why you changed your ticket to your friend, why you've been ignoring me. What did I do wrong? I looked at him, at his seemingly sincere confusion, his anxious expression. Did he really not understand? Or was he just pretending? Or maybe he suspected that I'd found out about the affair, but didn't know how much I knew, and was trying to gauge it before starting his excuses. I know everything, Mauricio. I saw the video from the camera. I saw you bring another woman into our apartment, saw you kissing her, holding her, saw her spend the night here. I saw her things in our bathroom, her toothbrush, her sponge, her cosmetics. I know you've been cheating on me. And not just once, you've been in a relationship with her. A serious, long-term one. Mauricio turned pale. He clearly hadn't expected such bluntness, or such certainty. What camera? What are you talking about? Don't pretend, Mauricio. It's humiliating for both of us. I installed a camera in the living room, hidden in the ficus, at my mother's suggestion. She saw you with that woman by accident at a cafe and kept an eye on you for a few weeks. When she realized you were going to bring her here, she called me and told me to set up the camera. I didn't believe you could actually do that to me. But cameras don't lie, do they? Mauricio sat with his head down, clearly trying to find a way out, to come up with an excuse, some kind of explanation. But what could he possibly say? How do you justify betrayal, deceit, humiliation? Isabella, he hesitated, then went on. I don't know what to say. It was a mistake, a stupid, meaningless mistake. She means nothing to me. It was just a distraction. I love only you. I've always loved only you. I almost laughed at the absurdity of those words. A distraction? A moment of weakness? A woman who left her things in our bathroom, who walked into our apartment like it was her home, who slept in our bed. Don't lie, Mauricio. Don't make this even worse. I saw her things in our bathroom. I saw how comfortable she was here, how at home she felt. That's not a moment of weakness. That's a relationship, a long-term, serious relationship. And don't talk to me about love. People who love don't betray, don't lie, don't humiliate the ones they claim to love. Mauricio lifted his eyes. There was something like remorse in them. But was it real? Or was he just sorry he got caught, sorry his double life had fallen apart? What do you want me to say, Isabella? That I'm guilty? Yes, I'm guilty. That I'm sorry? Yes, I'm more sorry than you can imagine. That I'll fix it? I'll do anything to fix it. Just tell me what to do, how to make it right. I shook my head. He still didn't understand. He still thought this was something he could fix, as if betrayal, deceit, and humiliation were things that could be patched up, like a broken faucet or a cracked vase. There's nothing to fix, Mauricio. You can't rebuild the trust you destroyed. You can't erase the humiliation I felt. You can't pretend nothing happened. I came here to tell you that I'm filing for divorce. Tomorrow I'll see a lawyer and start the process. I hope you won't make this harder than it has to be, and that we can handle things civilly. We'll have to sell the apartment, pay off the mortgage, and split what's left, unless, of course, you want to buy my share and keep the place. Mauricio stared at me in horror. I think only now it was sinking in that I wasn't just angry or hurt, that I had truly decided to end it, to leave, to divorce him. Divorce? But Isabella, we can fix this. I swear, I'll never do it again. It was stupid, it meant nothing. I realize that now. I can change, I'll do anything to earn your trust back. I shook my head. No, Mauricio, there's nothing to fix. And it's not just about your affair. It's about what I realized these past 2 weeks. Our marriage didn't make me happy. Not really. It was a compromise, comfortable, convenient, but not happiness. Not what I want from life. What are you saying? We were happy. We had a good marriage, maybe not perfect, but whose is? Maybe you were happy, Mauricio. Maybe you were fine, a wife at home and a mistress on the side. But I wasn't happy. I just didn't realize it, or I didn't want to admit it. Now I know what I want. And it's not a marriage with someone I can't trust. Mauricio looked at me, confused, desperate, maybe even afraid. Afraid not of losing me, but of losing the comfort, the stability, the illusion of a happy life. You can't just throw everything away, Isabella. 6 years of marriage, all our plans, our dreams, our hopes. Does one mistake really erase all that? It's not just a mistake, Mauricio, and not something I can just brush off. It's betrayal, lies, humiliation. And it's made me think about what I truly want. And you know what? I don't want a marriage without trust. I don't want a relationship that doesn't make me happy. I don't want to waste years waiting for you to betray me again. Because you will, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but someday. You've already shown what you're capable of: deceit, betrayal, living a double life. Mauricio fell silent, absorbing my words. Then he asked quietly, almost in a whisper, Did you meet someone else? On your trip? I shook my head, almost pitying him. Even now, even at this moment, he couldn't face the truth that the problem was him, his actions, his betrayal. He was still searching for an external cause, another explanation. No, Mauricio, there's no one else. This isn't about another man, it's about us, about you, about your betrayal, and about me, my future, my happiness. I realize that I deserve more. I deserve honesty, loyalty, respect. I deserve a relationship that brings me joy, not just stability and convenience. He stared at me, lost. And what are you going to do? Where will you go? For now, I'll stay with my mom. Then we'll see. Maybe I'll rent an apartment. Maybe I'll buy a smaller one after selling this place. Or maybe I'll leave the city altogether. I have plans, dreams I've been putting off for far too long. It's time to start making them real. Mauricio looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. And maybe he was. Maybe, for the first time, he saw the real me, not the convenient wife, the safe harbor, the source of comfort and stability, but a woman with her own desires, dreams, and goals. A woman who knew what she wanted and was ready to fight for it. So you've really decided? For good? Yes, Mauricio. For good. He lowered his head, accepting defeat, or maybe not defeat, but reality. A reality where actions have consequences, where you can't betray and lie and live a double life without paying the price. I won't try to stop you, Isabella, if you've truly made up your mind. But I want you to know, I did love you, in my own way. Maybe not the way you deserved, but I loved you. I nodded without arguing. Maybe he really did love me, in his own version of love, the kind that allowed betrayal, deceit, and humiliation. But that wasn't the kind of love I wanted or deserved. I'll take my things today. Just the essentials. I'll come back for the rest later, when you're at work. I'll leave the keys on the table. And, Mauricio, I hope we can handle everything, the divorce, the apartment, civilly, without drama or blame. It'll be better for both of us. Mauricio nodded, still not lifting his eyes. Of course, Isabella. Whatever you say. I left the living room and went to the bedroom to pack. I opened the closet, took out a bag, and began to fold my clothes, cosmetics, documents, everything I might need for the next few days. The rest I'd pick up later. Or maybe I'd just leave it. Maybe I didn't need those things, those reminders of a life that was no longer mine, of an unhappy marriage built on lies and betrayal. When I'd finished packing, I returned to the living room. Mauricio was still sitting in the same spot, in the same position, with the same defeated expression, a man who had just realized that his perfect life, his convenient marriage, his ability to have everything, a wife and a mistress, had just collapsed like a house of cards. I'm leaving, Mauricio. I'll call you when I'm ready to discuss the details of the divorce and the apartment, or my lawyer will contact you, whichever is easier. He nodded without looking up. As you wish, Isabella. And forgive me, if you can. I didn't answer, I didn't know what to say. Could I forgive him? Maybe someday, not now, not soon. When the pain faded, when the bitterness stopped burning, when I had built a new life and could look back without anger, then, maybe, I'd forgive him. Not for him, but for myself. I left the apartment without looking back. It was a strange, almost surreal feeling, walking out of a place I'd once called home, suitcase and bag in hand, like a guest, like a stranger. But I didn't feel regret or loss. What I felt was freedom, as if I'd dropped a heavy weight I'd been carrying for years, finally able to breathe again. I called a taxi and went to my mother's. She was waiting for me, worried, dinner already ready. She knew I'd come straight to her after talking to Mauricio. I told her everything, about our conversation, my decision to divorce, my plans for the future. Mom listened silently, only nodding from time to time to show she understood, that she supported me. You did the right thing, Isabella, she said when I finished. You can't build a life with someone you don't trust. That's like building a house on sand. Sooner or later, it collapses. I nodded in agreement. My mother always knew how to say the right thing at the right time, words that comforted, strengthened, and gave me courage. Thank you, Mom, for everything. For helping me see the truth, for supporting me when I needed it most, for just being there. She hugged me, and I felt tears running down my cheeks, not tears of pain or anger, but of relief, of release, of gratitude. I knew there were still challenges ahead, decisions, changes, new beginnings. But I was ready for them, ready to start a new chapter of my life. The next few days passed in a blur of errands and responsibilities. I met with a lawyer, discussed the divorce, property division, my rights, and options. I collected the rest of my things from the apartment when Mauricio wasn't home. I returned to work, explained the situation to my boss, and asked for understanding during this difficult time. Mauricio didn't resist. He didn't cause problems, didn't try to stop me, didn't complicate the divorce. Maybe he understood his guilt, maybe he accepted that he'd earned this. Or maybe that woman, his lover, mattered enough to him that he no longer felt the need to hold on to a marriage that had no future. A week after returning from vacation, I saw them together by chance, Mauricio and the woman. Blonde, slim, confident, bright lipstick. They were walking down the street, holding hands, talking, laughing. They looked happy, carefree, in love, as if there had never been betrayal, or lies, or double lives. Strangely, I didn't feel jealousy or anger or the urge to confront them. Only a faint sadness and relief. Yes, relief. Seeing them together, openly, without hiding, was somehow easier, somehow cleaner than knowing they had met in secret behind my back. I walked past them without saying anything, without showing that I'd noticed. That was their life, their choice, their decision. And I had my own life, my own choices, my own decisions. And I was determined to make that life happy, full, and meaningful. The divorce went through quickly, without unnecessary complications. Mauricio agreed to all my terms. He didn't argue, didn't bargain. We decided to sell the apartment, pay off the mortgage, and split the remainder evenly. It was fair, after all. We had both invested in that home, both paid for it, both once thought of it as ours. The day we signed the divorce papers, Mauricio looked dejected, guilty, almost miserable, nothing like the man I'd seen recently, walking hand in hand with his lover, laughing together. "I still regret it, Isabella," he said as we stepped out of the courthouse. "What happened, how it ended, I want you to know. I really did love you. In my own way, maybe not the way you deserved, but I did love you." I looked at him, at the man I had spent 6 years with, shared a bed, plans, dreams, hopes. Once, I had loved him, trusted him, believed in him. Once, he had been the center of my world, the foundation of my happiness. And now he was simply someone from my past, someone who had hurt me, yes, but also someone who had taught me something important, given me experience and understanding. "I believe you, Mauricio, and I hope you'll be happy, truly happy. Not the way you were with me, but with her, or with someone else you'll meet in the future." He smiled faintly, a sad, grateful smile. "Thank you, Isabella. And I hope you find happiness too. You deserve it more than anyone." We didn't hug goodbye, didn't shake hands. We just nodded to each other, like old acquaintances who'd met by chance and were now parting ways, each going on with their own life. Maybe someday we'd meet again. Maybe we'd be able to talk calmly, without pain, without resentment. Maybe even be friends. But not now. For now, we both needed time, distance, a fresh start. The apartment sold quickly. It was in a good area, well renovated, fairly priced. We paid off the mortgage and divided the rest. My share wasn't huge, but it was enough for a new start. A down payment on a smaller apartment, or a trip I'd always dreamed of taking, or the launch of my blog, my own business, my project. I decided not to rush into buying a new place. I could stay with my mom for a while, save some money, and think about what I really wanted to do next, what direction to take, what goals to set, what choices to make. Gradually, my life began to take on a new shape, a new rhythm, a new meaning. I still worked at the same agency, but I'd started thinking about a career change, new opportunities, a different path. I kept running my travel Instagram, posting more photos, new stories, not just from my vacation but from around the city too, interesting spots, small cafes, cozy streets, hidden gems. My account started to grow, to attract followers, to draw attention. Valentina remained one of my closest friends. We met often, talked about life, work, future plans. She supported my ideas, helped with Instagram content, shared her expertise in design and marketing. We even started discussing a joint project, a travel blog, maybe a website, maybe a series of workshops on planning independent trips. Carolina was there too, always supportive, always encouraging. She was happy that I'd found the strength to leave Mauricio, to start anew, to move toward my dreams. "I always knew you were strong," she said, "stronger than you think." My mom was happy too, happy to see me coming back to life, finding myself, building something new. She never said, "I told you so," never reminded me of her doubts about Mauricio, never gloated over his betrayal. She simply stood by me, supporting, helping, believing in me. About 6 months after the divorce, I made a decision that changed my life completely and irreversibly. I quit my job, rented a small apartment, and bought a ticket, a long, winding route through several Asian countries, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia. 3 months of travel, discovery, and adventure. 3 months of living the dream I had always imagined but never dared to chase. It was madness, a risk, a leap into the unknown, giving up stability, familiarity, safety. But it was my madness, my risk, my choice. And I was ready. Before leaving, I met with Valentina to discuss our joint project, the travel blog we planned to launch together. I would travel, write articles, take photos, create content. She would handle design, marketing, and promotion. A perfect collaboration. A perfect partnership. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Valentina asked as we went over the details. 3 months alone, in foreign countries, without backup, without support? I smiled. More sure than ever. This is what I've always dreamed of, what I've always wanted. I just never let myself do it before. I was scared, I doubted, I kept postponing it. But now it's time to make my dreams real. Valentina smiled back. Then go for it. I'll be waiting for your posts, your photos, your stories, and I'll keep things running here. And when you get back, we'll take over the internet with our blog. I hugged her, feeling deep gratitude for her support, for her faith in me, for believing in our project, and in the new life I was finally ready to live. Thank you, Valentina, for everything. Without you, without that trip to Cancun, I don't know if I would have found the strength to take this step. You would have, Valentina said confidently. Maybe not right away, maybe not as quickly, but you would have. You're strong, Isabella. Stronger than you think. You're brave, determined, and you'll get where you're meant to be, with or without my help. The day before my departure, I got a message from Mauricio. Good luck on your journey. Be careful, take care of yourself, and enjoy every moment. You deserve it. I didn't know how he'd learned about my plans, maybe through mutual friends, maybe he'd seen the announcement on my Instagram. But his message didn't stir any pain, resentment, or regret, only a quiet gratitude. Gratitude for the well wishes, for the support, for the fact that he was able to let me go and allow me to move on. I replied briefly, "Thank you, and I hope you'll be happy, too." Those 3 months in Asia changed me, outwardly, inwardly, completely. I got a tan, lost weight, grew stronger both physically and emotionally. I learned to handle difficulties, make decisions, and rely on myself. I met incredible people, saw breathtaking places, experienced emotions I'd never felt before. I lived fully, vibrantly, fearlessly, the kind of life I'd always dreamed about. I kept my blog, writing about my travels, sharing impressions, giving advice, telling stories. My account kept growing, more followers, more likes, more comments. People connected with my posts. It wasn't just a hobby anymore, it was becoming a job, a profession, a calling. When I returned, Valentina and I launched our joint project, the travel blog around the world with Isabella and Valentina. I was in charge of the content, she handled design and marketing. We worked as one, complementing and supporting each other, and our project began to gain traction, attracting readers, followers, and partners. A year after the divorce, I bought a small but cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood, not downtown, not fancy, but it was mine, my home, my space, my sanctuary. A place where I could truly be myself, live by my own rules, and build my own life. The day I got the keys, I invited my mom, Valentina, and Carolina for a little housewarming party, champagne, cake, laughter, and the anticipation of a new chapter. To the new home, my mother said, raising her glass. To a new life, to the new Isabella, to strength, courage, and determination, added Carolina. To finding the power to leave the past behind and move toward the future. To dreams that come true, said Valentina, smiling. To goals achieved and plans fulfilled. I raised my glass, tears welling in my eyes, tears of happiness, gratitude, and joy. To all of you, for being here, for believing in me, for supporting me. I couldn't have done it without you. We drank, we hugged, we laughed. It was a moment of pure, unfiltered happiness, of connection, understanding, and love, a moment I knew I would remember forever. 2 years after the divorce, I ran into Mauricio at the airport by chance. I was returning from another trip, 2 weeks in Morocco for the blog. He was waiting for someone, holding a bouquet of flowers, glancing anxiously at the arrivals board. We saw each other at the same moment and froze, then he smiled and waved. I smiled back and walked over. "Hi," I said. "It's been a long time." "Hi, Isabella. You look amazing." I really did look good, tanned, fit, dressed comfortably yet stylishly for travel. Confident, calm, happy. "Thanks, you look good, too." He actually did, maybe a little older, a little more tired, but still well-kept, healthy, in a nice suit with a fashionable haircut. "Who are you waiting for?" I asked, nodding toward the flowers. "Rosario. My wife. She's coming back from a business trip." "Your wife?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "You got married?" "Yes. 6 months ago. The same girl, well, you know." I nodded. "That girl, the blonde, slim one with confident steps and bright lipstick. The woman he cheated on me with. The one who had ended our marriage. Congratulations. I hope you're happy." "Thank you," he said, looking a bit embarrassed, a bit guilty. We're trying. It's not always easy, but we're trying. I nodded, understanding what he meant. Relationships that begin with deceit, with betrayal, with infidelity carry that weight, that shadow, that curse. As it comes, so it goes, my grandmother used to say. Relationships built on lies rarely last, rarely bring real happiness. And you? Mauricio asked. I've seen your blog. It's great work. You travel a lot. You write a lot. You look happy. I am happy, I smiled. I'm doing what I love, living the way I want. What could be better? And your personal life? Sorry if that's too personal. I shook my head. Nothing serious. Dates, a few light relationships, but nothing serious. I'm not ready for that yet. I understand, he said, nodding. After everything that happened, after what I did, I guess it's hard to trust again. I thought about that. He was right, of course. His betrayal had left a scar that hadn't completely healed. But it wasn't just about that, not just about fear of being betrayed, lied to, or humiliated again. It was about my life, the one I'd built, the one I genuinely loved. I wasn't ready to give up my freedom, my travels, my projects for a relationship, at least not for an ordinary, traditional one that demanded compromise, sacrifice, and surrender. It's not just about trust, Mauricio. It's about the fact that I found myself, found my path, my life, and I don't want to give that up for a relationship that might not even make me happy. He nodded, understanding, maybe even envying, a little, my freedom, my confidence, my wholeness. You've changed, Isabella. In a good way. You're stronger, more confident. I'm happy for you. Truly happy. Thank you. I smiled. And I'm glad we can talk like this, calmly, without resentment, without blame. That means a lot to me. To me too. He paused for a moment, then added quietly, I'll always regret what I did, how it all ended. But maybe it had to happen that way. Maybe it was for the best, for both of us. I nodded. Maybe he was right. Maybe our marriage had to end exactly like that. Maybe only that way could I find my own path, my own life, my own happiness. Maybe it wasn't a tragedy, but a necessary change, painful, difficult, but necessary. Take care of yourself, Mauricio, I said, getting ready to leave. And be happy, truly happy. You too, Isabella. You too. We didn't hug goodbye, didn't shake hands, just nodded to each other, smiled, and went our separate ways, each down our own road, our own life. Outside the airport, I took a deep breath, lifting my face to the spring sunlight. A strange encounter, a strange conversation, but in some way, an important one. A kind of closure, a final goodbye to the past, an act of acceptance, forgiveness, and release. I called a taxi and headed home, to my home, my life, my future. The life I had built myself, by my own rules, by my own choices, the life that made me feel whole, fulfilled, and truly happy. On the way, I thought about that strange night when Mom had called and asked me to install a camera in the living room, how everything had changed from that moment on, how pain, betrayal, and humiliation had become the turning point that pushed me toward a new life, new possibilities, new happiness. I thought about the strange paths of fate, the unexpected turns, the trials that become opportunities, about how what seems like an ending can turn into a beginning, how what seems like a tragedy can become a blessing. And I thought about my mother, the woman who had always wanted the best for me, who had always tried to protect me from pain and mistakes. The woman who had found the courage to show me the truth, even knowing that truth would hurt. The woman who had believed in me, in my strength, in my resilience, in my ability to overcome and rebuild. As the taxi pulled up to my building, I dialed her number. Hi, Mom, I'm back. I'll come by tomorrow, okay? I'll tell you about Morocco, show you the pictures, bring souvenirs. Of course, Isabella. I'll be waiting. How was the flight? Good. And you know what? I ran into Mauricio at the airport. Mauricio? Mom's voice sounded weary. And how was he? He's fine. Married to that same woman, he was there to meet her. We talked. Calmly, without anger, without reproach. It was strange, but somehow right. Are you okay? After seeing him? I smiled. Yes, Mom. I'm okay. More than okay. I'm happy. You know, I suddenly realized that maybe everything that happened, maybe it really was for the best. Maybe that was the only way I could find my own path, my own life, my own happiness. Mom was silent for a moment, then said softly, her voice tinged with gentle sadness. I always knew you were strong, Isabella. I always believed in you, in your ability to overcome any hardship, any pain. And I'm proud of you, proud of the woman you've become, proud of the life you've built. I felt tears well up in my eyes, tears of gratitude, love, and tenderness. Thank you, Mom, for everything, for always being there, for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself, for helping me see the truth even though you knew that truth would hurt. Without you, without that call, I would still be living in an illusion, in a lie, in an unhappy marriage with a man who betrayed me. You would have found out the truth sooner or later, Mom said gently, and you would have found the strength to leave, to start over. You're strong, Isabella, stronger than you think. I smiled, wiping away my tears. Maybe, but I'm glad it all happened the way it did. I'm glad I had you, your love, your support, your faith in me. I'll always be here, Isabella. I'll always love you, support you, believe in you, no matter what. I know, Mom. I know. And I love you more than anything in the world. The taxi pulled up to my building. I said goodbye to Mom, promised to visit tomorrow, and stepped out of the car. I looked up at the windows of my apartment, bright, warm, with colorful curtains and green plants on the sill. My home. My space. My life. I smiled, feeling a strange, almost dreamlike sensation, as if I were watching my own life from the outside, seeing the entire path I'd walked since that night when Mom called and asked me to install the camera. All the way to this moment, standing in front of my home, happy, free, confident in myself and my future. It had been a long journey, difficult, painful, full of doubts, fears, and disappointments, but also full of discovery, growth, strength, and determination. A journey that had led me back to my true self, to the life I had always wanted but had been afraid to choose, to a happiness that didn't depend on anyone else, not on their choices, their loyalty, or their betrayal, but on me alone. I went inside, took the elevator to my floor, opened the door to my apartment. I set my suitcase down in the hallway, kicked off my shoes, walked into the living room, and opened the window, letting in the spring air, the sounds of the city, the sunlight. I smiled, breathed deeply, and felt my home, not just walls and furniture, but a space where I could be myself, where I was safe, where I was happy. And in that moment, standing in the middle of my living room, surrounded by the things I'd chosen myself, travel photos, books, souvenirs, memories, I understood, finally and completely. I didn't regret anything. I didn't regret my marriage to Mauricio, not even his betrayal or the pain that followed, because all of it had brought me here, to this life, this home, this happiness, this me. And if I could go back to that night when Mom called and asked me to install the camera in the living room, if I could change my decision, refuse, choose not to know the truth, I wouldn't do it. I would still install that camera, still face the truth, still walk this path. Because only through that pain, that betrayal, that disappointment did I find my real life, my real happiness, my real self.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.